What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be taking a look at the the Master Grade Zeta 2.0. I do want to kind of start doing my videos in a different way. I got a lot of emails, and a couple comments from people, as well as I was able to talk to a couple of YouTubers I know, on the fact of how my reviews are done. And the way I want to start doing them is I'm going to go over the negatives and the positives about about my model kits. Then I will go over the accessories, articulation, and if it has transformation, it's transformation. That's how I'm going to start doing every review, if I remember that. So, I'm going to start off with the negatives about this figure. And it has a few. Some of them are my fault. I mean, there's still negatives I have about it, but I'm going to start off with the base negative that everybody, from what I know, kind of feels. And that's these Master Grade style hands. And you can see I kind of painted that peg, hopefully, and it kind of thickened it up. And it holds the gun fine in that hand. I haven't done it to this one yet, just to show you. It's definitely not... They're definitely not the greatest. And if y'all have any recommendations on how to tighten these up other than paint, or how to fix them, leave them down there in the description, the comments, and I will look at them and I will do everything in my power to fix it. That and the plastic tolerances aren't the best. When I was putting this guy together for the first time, he's got a tab that rotates inwards on it that allows the arm to kind of flex in and out a little bit. I mean, it's not really noticeable, but I got it put in there wrong, so I had to kind of basically pull it out, and that ended up breaking that elbow joint, and I had to glue it in, and so that's about all he gets now, and I'll go over that in articulation too. The plastic tolerances aren't the best on my copy. They're not horrible. I mean, I could still pose this guy without having to worry about him falling apart, like I've heard happens with the Master Grade Zeta. But definitely not the best. And then my final issue is he's kind of back heavy. And again, that's because you have all this massiveness on his back. But all the weight is put here on the ankles. And he can stand, clearly, because I haven't had him propped up on an action base or anything at all. So you just have to kind of work with it a little bit to make sure he can stand. But overall, that's kind of all the negatives I have about this. Building my first true transforming Master Grade was definitely enjoyable. I love to watch how everything integrated and how you could kind of see how it transformed as you built it. It was awesome. I loved it. I recommend this kit. I really do. I just, warn you about being careful with it when building. Make sure you follow the instructions and everything. But overall, it was a joy to build. To watch the chest's transformation as you build it and everything was an absolute joy. And he comes packed with a good amount of gimmicks, too. Which I'll go over after accessories. But overall, I do recommend this guy. He is a little sticker heavy, but from what I've been able to tell, most early Master Grades were. I built like 2 pre-2007 kit, being the Camphor and the Jim from the 8th Mobile Suit team, and those weren't sticker heavy, but they sucked in my opinion. The Jim, not so much. It had a little more stability, but the Camphor would not, at least on my copy, stay together, so it has been retired. So, it is in a box, and probably never going to come out again, but anyways, let's go ahead and get on to accessories. So, first thing you're going to get are 2 beam sabers. I don't think these are the beam effects that go with this, but I built this guy a good while ago, so all my beam effects have gotten, you'll notice it's bent, and I apologize for that. Let's get a non-bent beam saber. I think they're the more clear pink ones, but that's your beam saber handle. Just plugs right into the hand. And I've never had any issues with the beam saber staying in. Well, that is provided I can actually get it tabbed into the hand. This is a lot more difficult to do behind the camera. There we go. He holds the beam saber just fine and wraps the fingers around it, and there you go. Just throwing him into a quick pose. Real quickly. And he definitely poses really nice, and you can get some really expressive things out of this guy. When the beam sabers are not in use, they do have storage on the mobile suit, and they store in a way that I love, absolutely. Like on the strike, and I'll get around to reviewing that one eventually, but like with the strike's armor schneiders, first we gotta pop the beam effect out of there. You open up the side skirts, and there's just a little tab in there that it plugs into, like so, and then you just close it. And it reminds me so much of the strike, and I love the way it does that. Plus, it allows for some pretty cool stuff when it's in its Wave Rider form. And I find that absolutely amazing. Genuinely, it awesome the way that it does that. Next thing we're going to go up, and we're going to look at are these little things. They're little grenade launcher packs, and you can, well, I say you can kind of open these up, I think. Yeah. And you have a whole bunch of grenades in there. And no, I haven't painted mine, but that's because most of the time, they're hidden. But what this does allow you to do is, if you rotate the arm around, you've got these pegs there. And those will just attach into there. And then, go ahead and get his arm up real quick. You can push him forward, and it'll kind of open that chamber. You fold that chamber out, and you've got an actual grenade launcher, missile launcher, whatever it is. And I think that's really cool. Now, you do lose the ability for the shields if you have both of them attached. You do get two. But honestly, I do kind of wish there was some, like, an ability to have the shield attached somewhere, and then he just lost his finger. But it almost gives me, like, TF Prime Starscream kind of vibes, the way he just can do this, and I find it awesome. A lot of people don't like this, but, I think it was a nice inclusion. There is no other place for these to store on the mobile suit. They do store somewhere else, and I'll go over that here in a minute when we get to the rest of his accessories. But you have those. Next thing we're going to go ahead and take a look at is the Zeta shield. And you do get dry transfer decals as well as sticker style. That's the only dry transfer I used because I'm not a huge fan of them, but it does open, and you can see a decal there. You have double hinge joint here for the shield, as well as this piece rotates. Getting them on there is just like the grenade launchers. It plugs right back into here, and this definitely does not do, at least to me, doesn't look like it would block anything compared to something like the Freedom Shield or the Banshee Shield, but it does what it's necessary to do from in the show. You can rotate it around. You do have that, and it is nice. You can extend it if you so choose to. Make it a little larger. So you do have that. And I think it's pretty neat that, they kind of had to include it for the transformation purpose and everything, but it was really nice that they put as much detail as they did on it. So before we get to the beam rifle, we're going to get to probably what is one of my least favorite accessories in here, and that's I want to say it's the Hyper Mega Beam Cannon. I don't know exactly. But with this overall size and this guy's hands, it sucks. It really does. You got a couple opening flaps for handles, 2 handles there, handle inside there. This piece does pull up, and you do have a little bit of detail in there, and then the barrel extends, which is nice. And then you have that fold-out tab. We'll go ahead and go into storage, and it can, and it doesn't say this in the instructions, but it says it for Wave Rider mode, but you can clip this back into here, and then just plug it in, and the Zeta can kind of hold it on his arm with little issue. I mean, it is clearly heavy, and I don't try and do that for long because I'm afraid joints are going to start breaking, but you can do that. He can hold it. If you're willing to take like time to get him to hold it, he can. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to come back, and hopefully he'll have it in his hands. But you can tell that there's a little tab in there, and it's supposed to slot into the hands, and it's very iffy. But like I said, if I can get the gun in the hands, I will. And I will come back when I get that done. Okay. I was able to get him to hold it. If you take your time, and it took me like 30 minutes just to do that, you can get him to hold it. And again, I'm not going to mess with the barrel or anything because, again, he can hold it. But first, you have to make sure you get it under the arm. That is, and you can tell I don't have the fingers around it because those don't matter. And then the secondary handles, they don't have any tabs in it. So it's quite literally, and you can clearly see, it's just barely holding on thanks to the thumb, but he can do it. And that's awesome. I don't really try and mess with it because of how much of a pain it is, but you can see that if you take the time to do it, you can do it. So there is that. The final mobile suit related accessory you get his beam rifle. You do have a removing magazine clip here, which is nice. And overall, this is folded up for storage, so we'll go ahead and do that. It stores just like the shield on the back here, but the shield's tab is fine, and Zeta doesn't want to stand. That's what I mean by he doesn't want to stand all the time. The beam rifle's tab kinda is. I mean, if you... Right now, it's leaning on there, but yeah, it does not stay very well. Which, I mean, I guess it's okay. That's not where it stores on Wave Rider mode, so really you don't ever have to worry about that. Okay. But, and that's, again, you do have to have stickers on there. I didn't because they were too tiny and didn't want to stay. To get it into its beam rifle, you got to fold that barrel out, fold the handle up. I usually move this out of the way because it's kind of easier, and then fold up the sight, and again, 2 more stickers there, and then 1 for the sight. Again, I have no real issues with it. From afar, you really can't tell, and right now they're staying, so. But it just plugs into the hand. And again, if you ever have him holding it just like that, it does have to be under the arm, but right now, he's holding it. And I say he's holding it just fine right as he drops it. This is what I mean by this kind of is an issue. Either the tab's not big enough, or the port's not big enough, or something is having issues here. Let's try the other arm, because maybe I'll have a little more luck with that one. See, if you thicken up the peg, it kind of works for a while, but again, it's for a while. Just throw them into a quick pose. Yeah. Apparently the Zeta is having issues. I tried to refilm a review for this guy yesterday, and I just couldn't get into it, so I decided to put it off till today, and he had no issues yesterday, and yeah. So, for now, there he is in quite literally a very quick pose, which it is nice, and you can put a little beam effect there, because it is big enough, so you have that. So, overall, for actual onboard, or actual weapons, it is really nice. You have a couple other accessories in here that I'll get into here in a minute, but for right now, I want to go over like one of the last gimmicks this guy has, and that is the opening cockpit. It is really nice. You got your little Camille in there and everything, and That was really nice. They didn't have to do that, especially on a Zeta. But I like it. So, now for the last set of accessories. And this is probably what I love about this guy the most. And I know, it's probably wrong, but... And that is, you get an included launch bay here. And you can tell mine is very dusty. These things collect dust like there's no tomorrow, but it is really nice. You got, whenever you push this forward, the backs activate, and that's pretty nice. I do like that. It does move. But you do have polycaps down there, so those are probably going to wear out pretty soon if you use that a lot. But it also doubles as an action base, meaning you don't have to go out and buy one. And you do have little connections for the Master Grade Mark II. Do not have it. Right now I'm currently trying to locate one. That's not ridiculously expensive, but you do get 2 base adapters. You get one for the Zeta, just goes right in there, nicely, and you have one for the Mark II, which is really nice. Now, these do store right underneath here. The Mark IIs can go, I think so, yeah. Mark IIs goes right in there. The Zetas is a little more complicated because you have that little hole that you have to get one of these notches into, and there you go. You also get get a place to store the grenade launchers. And they just slide right under there. And I do love that. In the initial review I was filming, I did forget about them because they were under here, but you do have that. So, I do think that's pretty neat. But getting the Zeta on his action base really isn't too complicated. All you got to do is, you have a little clip under there, if I can get it to focus. There we go. That you just get him put onto. Again, this is a little hard to do when you're not able to look at it directly, but there you go. And that's basically it. My camera isn't big enough to fit the entire thing on camera on the base, so there's that. I'm going to pull him off the base, and we're just going to take the entire base adapter off when I do this. But now for articulation. The head, you got... That's the first time that's happened. Huh. You have really no up, but you do have a good amount of down. You can get a full 360 out of there. Side, and go a little bit of giggity. For the arms, shoulder pads aren't really much. You have this moving thing. It goes about out that much. Can pull full 360. Kind of butterfly joint. You do have backwards butterfly, but that's more for transformation purposes. Bicep rotation. The normal arms will have a lot of bend. Because I screwed mine up, this one only has about 90. Hands do have kind of like sword-wielding wrists. The wrist itself's on a ball joint as well as a clip. And then you do have thumb, index finger. And if you don't split these 3 fingers, they stay together. But if you split them, you have that much. The waist is kind of limited. Again, you do have kind of a rotation, but that's about it. And a little bit of side to side. And I'm not upset about that. You do get a full transformation packed within this guy, so that's really nothing I worry about. Side skirts can pull down, up, on a peg or a ball joint or something. Legs can move out about that far, because of the way they're built. You get that much forward, not much backwards because you don't have a moving back skirt by lower or bicep rotation, and that much knee bend. If you don't kind of untransform it, you can get more if you do that. Not much, but it is worth mentioning. And now for the feet. The feet are probably one of my favorite parts of this guy. You do have that moves, and then I do apologize for that. So, you do get an ankle tilt there, and that's kind of starting to. As well as toe bend, and the axis where it bends is weird, but also as well as you get, like, a toe down. So, and that reveals some piston details, but overall the foot is really, really, really nice. Overall, this entire figure is really nice, other than the fact that some of it's a little unstable at times, but if you take care of the build, you really won't have much issue. Now for the transformation, and this guy, the first time I transformed it was a little bit annoying, I'll say. A little bit frustrating as well. So, it's not completely out of the question on how fun or anything it was. It was definitely enjoyable, especially considering this was my first transforming master grade that actually had a different alternate form, but we'll get into that here in a minute. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to transform the beam rifle. Just slide that back in, fold that down, bring that up, and leave that where it is. The shield, you're going to want to bring this forward, then this up, then the entire thing down, and bring that back out, and then fold that in if you're not having the hyper beam launcher or whatever it is called on there. Now for the mobile suit itself. Starting at the head, you're going to want to do the classic Zeta, where the V-fin goes up. Then we're going to want to pull this up and this out, and then push the head in, and then bring this up. Now, the head won't go all the way down because there's this clip that absolutely has to come out. Then you can finish pushing it down. And we're just going to bring this up, and there you go. Torso is done for the most part. Now, there are parts of this in the instructions that are a little funky that I don't do exactly. And that's because it creates an entire headache I don't like dealing with. Bring these up, and sometimes when you're posing this, those will automatically fold in. Not a big deal. I like to bring the arms out and then in. Makes everything a little easier. Then rotate these forward. Rotate the hands. And there you go. Now this is where I differ from the instructions. I go ahead and remove the upper and the lower body, because it makes these next few steps a little bit easier, because you can see a little more. First thing we're going to want to do is remove the action base. Then we're going to want to bring this up, and it broke again. That's what I mean by it'll break at times. So, I'm going to just set that off to the side and work with the rest of this guy. Go ahead and bring this up, pull these out, and go ahead and push it back down. Because then what you want to do is kind of just bring them up like this, and it'll kind of peg in right there. And then take the legs, bring them forward like so, and then rotate them down, bringing the side skirts with you. These are on two separate axes, so you have this that rotates differently. And then, when it comes to the front skirt, you're going to want to just, normally you're just going to want to fold these in, and then close everything back up. Because mine broke, I cannot really, fold it down, but it still pegs in very nicely. Now, for when you do this the way the instructions tell you to do, makes it a little difficult. You have these two slots in there, and you can kind of tell that you're supposed to have something that plugs into them. Here, I don't know how well you can see that, if my camera will focus. Here, and the same on the other side. These little clips, here and here, are supposed to go into there. And you're supposed to do all this while it's still attached, is what the instructions say. I don't, because when you're reconnecting everything, it is a lot easier to try and do it this way, because once you get everything lined up, it's just quite simply just pushing everything back together. Maybe that's why that front skirt broke. It is highly possible. The camera just fell a little bit. We're doing that. So, I will, for the sake of this, go ahead and move all this out of the way so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, provided everything will stop falling apart. And I know maybe on camera I'm making this transformation a little difficult. In person it is much more fun than this. Okay. Just push this in, and there goes that again. That is fine. Everything is fine. I think. You really don't want to stay. I'm trying here, but it just doesn't want to let me. Okay. Bring these forward. Take this and quite a lot of force is required. There we go. Just like that. And you'll notice they don't quite plug in perfectly, but that's okay. It's there just enough to get the job done. And then we're just going to bring the arms all the way in. Kind of close the fists up. Go ahead and reattach this because mine, again, is busted and doesn't want to work. Come on, quit fighting me on this, you. So, there we go. Now, normally, oh shoot. Just go back. Okay. Trying to get everything kind of back where I had it so I can show you the full transformation. Now, if you can do it without removing that, I do recommend that. I'm having some really slight doubts on that's why that broke. So, just kind of want to make sure everything's pushed in where it needs to be. Going where it needs to go. Come on. So, after you've done that, now comes the fun part and you get to mess with the wings. So, they have like these little ball joint tabs that plug into there. You want to bring them down on this little armature back there. And then rotate that said armature up. And the whole thing will fold around and down as you do that. Just like so. Then, carefully, we're going to want to just kind of... Sometimes it's a little easier to do this beforehand. Sometimes it's not. And the entire thing's falling apart. Why the fuck are you falling apart again? Stop it! Stupid. Like I said, sometimes it can be a headache. But overall, usually, except when I'm filming, apparently, I've never had many issues with this. Okay, you're just basically going to want this entire armature joint to look like this. And we're going to try and show you again with the other side. Hopefully it won't be as much of a pain, but bring this out. Bring this up. Over. Go ahead and actually, we'll try it this way. Bring this forward and then rotate it up. Before you bring that entire assembly down. Because then when you bring that entire assembly down, yeah, that makes it so much easier. See, we're learning together. Now, you have to transform the wings. And I'm going to go ahead and try and show you this as easily as I can. So you want to bring the wing out, then inside, push that up, and just kind of rotate that entire thing down. But before you do that, you have to rotate that out first. And usually, I use a little flathead screwdriver to do that. You don't have to have much, but you just have to have enough to where you can get it, your finger behind it. And push it up. Then rotate this internal wing out. And there you go. Then you can just fold this entire assembly down over the arms. Just like so. Do the same on the other side, and except this time I'm showing you from the front, except sometimes doesn't always want to work. And he's just falling again. And again, sometimes parts like to come undone before you're done with with transformation, but if you're willing to have the patience, it is enjoyable. I do have fun going back and forth. Bring that up, and then rotate the wing out, and just fold this entire assembly down. It should fold up pretty flush to the Wave Rider mode in general. Okay. Now comes what I think is the most difficult part. Actually, I think at this point, we're good to go ahead and probably get this guy up on an action base. On his action base now. So, just put that in there. And my camera's having issues again. Okay, now that he's up there and a little easier to mess with because now I don't have to keep a good hold of him while trying to do all this. Trying to get this, nope, stay plugged in, just trying to get you to move up just a little bit. Why won't you? Maybe that's why. Okay, I guess it's up as far as it's going. Nope, need to go this way. Stupid camera. Okay, so at this point, now you're going to want to bring in the shield, and it is supposed to plug in there, as well as up at the top. Sometimes this can be a little bit of a pain, because you have to get that clip in there. And then this part is probably the biggest pain because it's a whole bunch of lining things up that you can't see, and just overall is a pain in the butt. Because you also have to get those in there while you're trying to line everything up. I just kind of do it to the best of my ability and don't really worry about it. Because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, that's not working for some reason. So we're back to holding it. And I think I just about got it. Oh, well, that's because that didn't come all the way out. If I had to guess. No, it just keeps getting moved back in. Okay. Why are we having issues, Zeta? Is it because you're on camera? It's gotta be because you're on camera. Okay. Again, try and make sure everything's as smooth and flush as possible when you do this to make the whole process a little easier. Okay. For some reason, that wing is not going all the way in. Maybe it is. I'm just hallucinating. Okay. It's a little easier to hook it from the top, then bring it down. Just kind of plug these in. And I say that, but it doesn't want to stay. Just like so. It is very finicky, but if you can get it to work, it'll work. Sometimes that doesn't like to stay all the way in. There we go. And once you have that done, now comes the easy part. Because now we're on the home stretch. And so, now what you're going to want to do is, maybe now I can use this, because now is where it really does get difficult to hold and do this, because you kind of have to have both hands for this part. So basically what you're going to do now, first we'll go ahead and fold this tail piece back, rotate that out, pull that out, go ahead and close up the foot, and then push this piece in. And I know it's a little hard to see because of where the camera angle is, and I apologize for that. Then you're just going to kind of fold the foot forward, then grab it back here, and kind of just fold it backwards and forwards, then push it in. Then push the foot in. And there you go. Now we're going to go ahead and move this to the other side and do the same. Fold the foot down, pull that out, pull that out. Then rotate it up, then down, then up, then forward. Push that back, that forward, that forward. And we're pretty much almost done. Of course, you got to make sure everything lines up. Okay. Now for quite literally what is the final stretch. I'm going to go ahead and rotate these around. I'm going to remove it off the base again, because you're supposed to have this tab that plugs in there. And I mean, it does, but at the same time it doesn't. So I'll show you this again. And again, sometimes you got to keep pushing the legs inwards. Sometimes it's a little easier to plug that in and then rotate it around. It really depends on, you know, what your Zeta's feeling at the moment. Because, well, yes, this is a model kit. It's not alive. At the same time, it does like to be picky. And then just take your gun, plug it on there, and you're done. Overall, the transformation can be very finicky at times. I mean, very, very finicky. Oh yeah, and the rifle doesn't like to stay. But overall, it is definitely nice. And if you wanted to, you could have the beam sabers activated in Wave Rider mode, if you so choose to. So, there you have that. And I know I didn't get two size comparisons, and I do apologize, but most of my master grades are boxed up right now because I'm hopefully about to move out. But there you have the master grade Zeta 2.0. Again, overall it is definitely a fun master grade to build, to handle, and everything else. I do recommend it. Again, a lot of it needs work, but for the most part, it is definitely very interesting. And if you're wondering about the Hyper Mega Bazooka launcher, whatever it is, it can store on the mobile armor mode. Just quite literally in the same place that it did in mobile suit mode. I'm hoping that here shortly, either I will live stream or something with the real grade full armored unicorn as soon as it gets in. It was definitely, that is probably one of my biggest kits that I have wanted for a while, because I like big mobile suits. Big tanky-esque mobile suits, like the Barbatos or the Perfect Strike, stuff like that. So you do have that. And again, I don't hate this thing. I know maybe in the review it'll come across that way. It's just, at times it can be very finicky, and if you're not willing to put in the work, you will hate it. And from what I've seen on a lot of people here recently, on YouTube and everything, that have tried the Master Grade, that just jump straight in with problematic Master Grade without doing any kind of research or anything, they end up hating them, and then it ruins the entire build for everybody. And so all I'm saying is, A, do your research before you just buy. If you haven't built a Gundam or even a model kit before, do your research. So, and if you want to, tiny little core Gundam. So, that's basically it from my Master Grade Zeta review. If you like it, please like, subscribe, share, and also I just recently made a Patreon, so please go support that.